Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer 5050-454G1-652. This is a 4.5 by 4 slip-in hinge, full mortise, standard weight, plain bearing, removable though non-rising pin hinge. Now let's take a look at the hinge. Here it is. So it's, when you look at it, you might say to yourself, well, that's an unusual looking hinge. But if you know what you're looking at and you say, nope, that's exactly what I need. This is what's called a slip-in hinge. And a slip-in hinge is a hinge that you're going to see on very old aluminum storefront, 1960s, 1970s, I imagine, possibly older, where what they did was, rather than prep the edge of the door or the rabbet of the frame for a hinge leaf that you would then just simply screw to the attached reinforcement, they would have cut a slot in the face of the frame or the face of the door and inserted the hinge into that slot, okay, into that slot. Then in the edge of the door or the frame, in this case, you would then secure through the wall thickness of the door or the frame to the tapped holes that are back here, and those are indeed tapped holes. This is where one leaf has been prepped to be a slip-in. You can also have a hinge that has both leaves as slip-in style hinges. So in this application, one leaf has a slip-in application, and the other side, the door or the frame, has a standard prep. I think most common we see one leaf prep for slip hinge, but the last hinge I sold a month ago was both leaves were prepped for this slip-in application. And really what changes, what happens is there's a alteration to the swag on the hinge leaf so that the way this leaf is bent is made to accommodate the fact that it's going to be slipped into the face of the door or the frame. Whereas with the standard leaf here, it has a standard swag on it or standard bend to make it a full mortise hinge. And while both leaves look very similar to each other, they're anything but the same. And that's proven just by the fact when you bring the leaves parallel, you've got that large gap between the two. That's because that leaf has got to sit inside of something. That's why. They're not uncommon hinges. We sell them with some frequency, not very often, and it's because those doors and frames that are out there, they're slowly going away, obviously, and I'm not aware of anyone doing new work that's a slip-in style hinge on a manufacturer. I'm just not aware of it, of anyone who's manufacturing them. So the 5050 in the part number means a number of things. It means that it is a steel-based hinge. It means that it is a plain bearing. There are no bearing packets here. 5-knuckle hinge that has one leaf as a slip-in hinge, or it's a special hinge. The other leaf is just a standard mortise hinge. It also means that it is a standard weight hinge, meaning that it is 134 thousandths of an inch leaf thickness. That's also inferred in that part number. My caliper tells me 0.138, so a little heavy on that. Okay. Now the 454, that means that this hinge is 4.5 inches tall and 4-inch wide. This hinge may not look exactly square to you, and that's because it's not. It's only 4-inch wide. A very common width hinge that you'll see on aluminum storefront. Hollow metal doors and frames, wood doors and steel frames, 4.5 by 4.5, very common. May not be the right size hinge at all for your application, meaning a 4-inch wide hinge might be a better option, or maybe it's not. But in aluminum work, a 4-inch wide hinge is extremely common. In fact, I would call it the standard. They basically bring that vertical axis of pivoting in just an additional 1/4 inch, but it makes this a smarter hinge where you're moving that as close to the center of the thickness of the door as possible, making the hinge more efficient at what it does. Now the G1 means one leaf has been prepped as a slip hin. The 652 means Two things. It means that it's made of, well, three things. It does mean it's made of steel. It means that it is in a satin chrome plated finish, and that it has a lacquer applied to it. Okay. You're going to get fasteners with this. You'll get all machine screws. They are certainly knowing that you're installing this onto, an aluminum door and frame where you require machine screws, and as a result would not send any wood screws at all. Let's switch to the screen view now, and let's take a closer look at the supporting information, and we'll take a look at how to dissect that part number. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Here is the hinge that we are looking at. Let's take a look at the images we have down below. There is our label on the box. There's our hinge. Showing how those hinges are swagged. That's your slip-in leaf there. The back side of the hinge. One leaf for the slip-in leaf. Closer view of the Bommer logo and those two of the 4 tapped holes. And then the 1224 flat undercut head thread forming machine screws that you get with the hinge. Okay, now there is some extended description information down below. Let's take a closer look at that. For medium weight doors, low frequency doors, yeah, when it's a plain bearing hinge like this, you're gonna, I would not recommend you order a plain bearing hinge. Order the BB 5050. It's going to have 2 bearing packets in it and will be substantially more capable of handling the typical usage of an aluminum storefront door. Used for aluminum doors and frames. Hinge leaves slip into a slot in the door and or the frame. Steel hinge with a steel pin. 1 leaf tapped with a 3/16 swag. It is a template pattern, meaning the location of these holes matches the standard template locations. Plain bearing, 5 knuckle. Non-rising removable pin standard. There's a button, tip, pin, and plug, and what they're saying is the tip on this hinge looks like the button on your coat. It's called a button tip. Now, there's a template here. Let's take a look at that. This is going to show us our G1 and G2 hinges, which are 1 leaf has been prepped to be a slip-in when it's a G1, and then the G2 template is the bottom half of the document showing both leaves. So when they say a 3/16 of an inch swag, that's the dimension between the 2 leaves when they're brought parallel. Okay? But when you do them both as a slip-in, then you'll have a 5/16 swag between there. There's also a document called cut sheet. That's handy. That's a document out of the manufacturer's catalog that allows you to review the 5050 and its other variants. What I mean by that is you can do this hinge in steel or a 5051 brass or a 5052 stainless. You can do it as, which is a 5 knuckle. You can also do them as a 3 knuckle as well. 3 knuckle's nice because it's a little cleaner look. That's to be sure. You can also do them as ball bearing, and you can do the 3 knuckle as a ball bearing as well, but they call it a lube bearing, so it's not BB, it's LB. Standard weight slip-in hinges. They make them in 2 sizes, 4.5 by 4 and 4.5 by 4.5. I do have to admit, though, the 4.5, 4.5 is more common. And I don't know if we've ever actually done an LB or an 8000 series slip-in. I like the look of the 3 knuckle because it is, as I had said earlier, especially when you're dealing with these bearing packets. Okay, but anyway, 2 sizes, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5 by 4. And here's the G1, G2 I had mentioned earlier. 1 leaf tapped, 1 leaf slip-in, G2 both leaves tapped. Now, on the manufacturer's page that's here, right here, before we get to that, this hinge, it's made of steel. This hinge can be done in any finish that Bommer can do on steel, brasses, bronze, chromes, nickels, even oil-rubbed bronze, bright black japanned, zinc dichromate. They can do zinc plating as well, I'm sure. So lots of finishes. Obviously, satin chrome is going to be pretty common, but you can also do satin nickel as well. They can also make these out of stainless steel. The part number would change, but they can do it out of stainless. Now, that link here below this video to the manufacturer's page, when you click on that, you're going to be able to pull up not only all of the Bommer products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation as seen here, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Before we open the full product catalog, we have the How to Order matrix, and that is the page out of the catalog that will allow you to see how their part numbers are built. So we've got a 50-50, 5-knuckle, full mortise, slip-in, standard weight steel base. Then we've got a 4-5-4, so 4.5 by 4, and then we've got our options over here, anchor and slip-in options, G1, one leaf tapped. Okay. Into here you could put security options such as non-removable pin or maybe security stud here. And then of course your finishes. These are just examples of those finishes. Very likely you'd want to order this as an N or a non-removable pin type of hinge. Assuming that your aluminum storefront door swings out is the bottom line. So you might want an N option. So it'd be, I would make it a BB5050 454N G1 652. That would be that part number. Now, the link to the catalog is here. The reason to open that up is because it will allow you to review all things Bommer hinge related. Now, admittedly, if you know the name Bommer at all, you probably do for their spring hinges, and their most common hinge when it comes to spring hinges is their 3029 series double-acting spring hinge. You have most certainly seen this hinge or a clone of it at some point in your life. Double-acting door between the kitchen and the dining area in a restaurant, very likely Bommer 3029, that sort of thing. But they make single-acting spring hinges as well, and a variety of types of those. If you're ever in New York City and you see you're staying at a hotel that's probably 100 years old, it's probably full of Bommer spring hinges. I've seen countless versions of Bommer spring hinges in older hotels and in cities that are simply older. Their 7800 series horizontal spring pivots are here. They also have a really nice offering of lavatory hardware. Where would you see this? Well, a high-end hotel is where you would see this lavatory hardware because it's all made of solid brass. So you're going to afford very nice architectural finishes on that material. Let's wrap up this video on camera. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. In conclusion, it's a nice looking hinge. Bommer does a pretty good job at getting the entire hinge finished. Okay. Last thing I'd like to point out to you is the Bommer logo. See if we can get the camera to focus on that. Anyway, it says right above the Bommer logo right there, Made in USA, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. Other manufacturers' logos will say USA on it. Doesn't mean it's made in the United States. When Bommer says Made in USA, they literally mean, you know, in the Carolinas. It's where it's made. It may or may not matter to you. It does to me. That's my personal opinion on it. And good quality company. Department for department, pound for pound, possibly the best hinge manufacturer out there. Whether it be tech support or customer service or their shipping department or manufacturing. Just a great group of folks over there that I have called on countless times over the years and decades, in fact. And deeply value our relationship with Bommer, and I hope that they have many years in the future coming up. Founded by the brothers Bommer in 1876, owned by the husband of the granddaughter of one of the two founders. Fun fact. Any questions on the 5050 451G1, pardon me, 454G1 in a 652 finish, or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. and thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.